Oh, hello. Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, what are the best new cards from Spider-Man for non-Commander formats such as Modern, Pauper, Pioneer, and even lesser-known formats like Standard? The answer is nothing. There's not really anything. I don't know, Commander's fine because anything can see play there, but for the rest of Magic, nah. I hope very much this video has been of some help to you. Okay. There's some exciting card designs from Spider-Man for sure, but I'm just skeptical about these cool cards actually seeing Modern or even Pauper play because, well, Modern Horizons pretty much made it so that new cards just don't see play. I mean, let's look at the sets of this year so far. Here's a question for you. How many cards printed in one of the 4 prior standard sets released this year do you think are seeing significant play in Modern right now? I'll give you a moment to think about it. Ready? Well, from Edge of Eternities, the main cards seeing play are Quantum Riddler and Pinnacle Emissary, which are 4-ofs in Ephemerate and Artifact decks respectively. Azurius Control players are also running a few copies of Consult the Star Charts. From Final Fantasy, there are 0 cards seeing significant Modern play. That's right, not even Vivi is seeing any Modern play, because removal in that format is just too efficient for a 3-mana 0/3 to make a difference, even if it does get bigger quickly. From Tarkir Dragonstorm, Ugin, Eye of Storms, Corey Steelcutter, and Voice of Victory have all found homes in Tron, Prowess, and Energy, respectively. And from Aetherdrift, only 1 card, Ketramos, and it's really only on the very outer edges of playability there. So that's a grand total of 7 standard cards for all of 2025, making any impact in Modern at all. The bar, therefore, is exceptionally high for the still relatively small Spider-Man set. If you look at the other non-rotating constructed formats, Pauper and Pioneer, things don't get much better. Ironically, Standard will likely see a lot of Spider-Man cards get played, but only after Vivi gets banned. Nonetheless, I do think Spider-Man has exciting card designs, and some may just be able to break through the barrier that Modern Horizons and Vivi has created. And so, presented here are the best of Spider-Man's new card designs for all non-rotating Commander formats, from Modern to Pauper to Pioneer to, yes, we'll be talking post-Vivi Standard. What do we think is most likely to see play? Let's take a look. And remember, many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, is there anything in the world better than a good night's sleep? I mean, are you tired all the time? Well, maybe you need a new mattress. You're gonna spend 30 years of your life on top of your mattress, so you better make sure it's the best there is, and there is no better mattress in the game than Helix Sleep, sponsor of today's video. Everybody is different, and Helix knows that, so they make a sleep quiz that matches your unique body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. We've had our Helix mattress for years now, and we absolutely love it. That's real, by the way. I really do sleep on a Helix every night for years, and I used to struggle to get a good night's sleep, but thanks to Helix, it's just made a huge difference. There is nothing better than waking up well rested. Want to turn an existing mattress into a Helix? Well, now you can with Helix mattress toppers. High quality toppers that bring all the quality of a Helix mattress to your existing mattress. Put a topper on it. Helix also recently released a line of Helix Kids mattresses, which is great for making sure your kids get a good night's sleep and are ready for all the excitement and hard work of going back to school. And right now, thanks to Helix's exclusive partner offer, this is the perfect time to get your hands and your back and your stomach and your side on a great mattress. Upgrade your sleep with 27% off site-wide. Just go to helixsleep.com/Tolarian or follow the QR code or click in the link in this video description to find out more. Thank you, Helix, for sponsoring this episode and for the best night's sleep of my life. Let's begin with the modern format, where our first card is Lady Octopus, a creature with the potential for you to get 5 mana on turn 2. Lady Octopus, Inspired Inventor, is a 0/2 legendary human scientist villain for just a single blue mana. She's got a pair of abilities. When you draw your first or second card in a turn, put an Ingenuity counter on Lady Octopus. Also, you can tap Lady Octopus to cast an artifact spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of Ingenuity counters on her from your hand without paying its mana cost. So when I look at Lady Octopus, 2 cards that immediately leap to mind are Lotus Bloom and Soul Talisman, also known as Black Lotus and Soul Ring at home. And while it may take them 3 turns to get their butts off suspend and into play, this downside actually means their mana value is 0, which means Lady Octopus can tap and cast them on turn 2. You can also use Lady Octopus to cast larger artifacts without too much trouble. She'll automatically gain her first Ingenuity counter on your draw step. Then if you cast a Preordain, she'll get another one. A Mishra's Bauble or a Consider could also add Ingenuity counters on your opponent's turn, giving Lady Octopus the ability to cast a 3 or even 4 mana artifact for free at instant speed. Oh look, Goblin Charbelcher is a 4 mana artifact. That's pretty sweet. Mono Blue Belcher would be a great home for Lady Octopus. Not only can she do the Lotus Bloom trick, but casting Belcher for 0 mana makes it very likely you'll have the spare 3 mana you need available to activate Belcher immediately the turn it enters play. Now, keep in mind, if your lady gets bolted, you'll have to cast your Lotus Bloom on turn 2, meaning you won't get that mana until turn 5. Is that risk really worth it in a format that's already prepared to deal with a turn 1 Ocelot Pride? Again, I'm not saying Lady Octopus won't see any modern play. I think she'll see some. The siren call of actual Black Lotus will be too strong to resist, but I don't think she'll be a big difference maker in modern. Spider-Man also brings with it a couple of Urza's Saga tutor targets in the form of Peter Parker's camera and Doc Ock's tentacles, meaning this already powerful card gets even better with these couple of neat new tricks. We've already talked about Peter Parker's camera extensively in other videos, but being able to copy various Eldrazi triggers or even drawing some extra cards in Affinity might be worth a one-off slot. Doc Ock's tentacles similarly might see play as a one-of in Amulet Titan, auto-equipping to your Prime Time or Cultivator Colossus for a little extra oomph. Now, these are not particularly mind-blowing additions to the format, but you might see these as sideboard cards or a special tack at your local game store. Alright, but enough about Modern. I want to talk about some of the other non-rotating formats. Wizards of the Coast may have forgotten they exist, but we haven't. Let's talk Pauper, the format of only commons, the best budget format there is. Surely something from this Spider-Man set is going to have relevance there. Pauper, for instance, has City Pigeon, a 1-mana 1/1 flyer which drops a food token when it leaves play. This card potentially has a home in core Skyfisher decks, which, to be fair, is a deck that I often try and make new cards work in because, let's be honest, it's both an extremely versatile and extremely fun list. Pauper is also getting a whole influx of common legends for the first time in quite a while, which is relevant because they dodge Cast Down, a very common removal spell in the format. In total, there are 10 common legends in Spider-Man, 2 for each color. But a lot of these legends, such as the 3/3 Spider-Man that only costs a single white, or the 4/3 Spider-Man that searches up a basic land, still just die to Lightning Bolt. So again, I don't think they're really likely to see too much impact. But hey, self-bounce effects are good in Pauper, and here I am eyeing core Skyfisher again as a potential home for these neat new card designs. Yeah, I feel like I say, might find a home in core Skyfisher decks a lot in a lot of these videos, but this time I've got a real good feeling about it. Now, if only I could make that Chubtoad deck work. What about new cards from Spider-Man for Pioneer? What's even going on in Pioneer these days? I don't really hear people talk about it much. Well, obviously the meta must have changed a lot since the last time we took a look at the format, right? Let's see. The best decks in Pioneer currently are Izzet Phoenix, Rakdos Midrange, Mono Red Aggro, Greasefang, and Azurius Control? Wait, did I just time travel back to 2024? Or 2023? Or 2022? Is Pioneer stagnant? Well, since we are traveling back in time, let's look at some cards that can breathe some life, and potentially some low-tier decks, back into at least mid-tier. When I see Arachne Psionic Weaver, the first deck in Pioneer I think of is Mono-White Humans. A deck that's never quite found its footing, at least not in recent time, but that all of us are really rooting for. Well, Arachne Psionic Weaver is a 3-mana, 3/3 legendary human spider hero with web slinging and all for a single white mana that looks at your opponent's hand and adds attacks to a non-creature spell of a type of your choice. While taxing your opponent's hand after taking a peek is strong, what's also strong is tapping Extraction Specialist to Warden of the Inner Sky, then using Arachne's web slinging to return your Extraction Specialist and play its ETB effect again for great value. Also, web slinging is a cast, so if your Cosmogran Zenith is on the field, this could be your second spell for just a single white. Moving on to another formerly popular deck, Rakdos Sacrifice sees a little spider boost with the mechanic Mayhem. And we actually have not one but two strong cards that fit right into Rack-Sack or mid-range. Ultimate Green Goblin is a 1 generic and 2 Rakdos hybrid mana creature that reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, discard a card, then create a treasure token. This creature also has Mayhem for 2 and a Rakdos hybrid. This is a 5 power and 4 toughness body on only a 3 mana creature. Wow! And with a little blood token, this creature reads, discard me, draw a card, and still get a 5/4 if you have the mana. I don't even want to think about this card with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. But then again, I don't even want to think about Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I'm sick of Fable of the Mirror Breaker! Rakdos Sacrifice is more than okay with discarding cards. A Witch's Familiar in a graveyard isn't going to stay there for long, after all. Or how about another card that wants to be discarded, like Carnage, for example? Carnage, Crimson Chaos, is a 4-mana legendary creature with trample that reads, when Carnage enters, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains this creature attacks each combat if able, and when this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it. It has Mayhem for a black and a red. Playing Carnage means you can return Mayhem Devils, Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger, and even Ultimate Green Goblin. Hey, these two new cards may just give Rack-Sack the boost it needs to see those higher tiers again. At the end of the day, the format that is most likely going to see cards from Spider-Man played in it is, well, Commander. We talked about Commander, but in addition to Commander, Standard. Now, Standard's in a really weird spot right now. It's kind of a lame duck format. We talk all about that here, but the short of it is, VV and/or Cauldron needs to be banned, and Wizards has said yes, VV and/or Cauldron will be banned, but not just yet, but it will be. We're letting you know it will happen. Just give it a little bit. And thus, we're all just waiting for the inevitable. So what's going to happen after these bans? No one knows, but I do think we're gonna see some of these cards see play. First up is a stopgap solution to all your mana woes. Multiversal Passage, the prismatic vista of Shock Lands. Multiversal Passage has the classic Shockland text. Pay 2 life when it enters, or it enters tapped. It even has a basic land type, one of your choice that you choose when it enters play. The mana in Standard is pretty awkward in a post-rotation landscape. Half of all color pairs don't have a shock land at their disposal. Ally color pairs don't have a fast land. In other words, the only color pairs with both a shock and a fast land are Boros and Orzhov. The poor schlubs of the Azurius and Selesnya guilds have neither a shock land nor a fast land at their disposal. Makes it even more impressive that Azurius Control is a pretty good deck in Standard, don't you think? The beauty of Multiversal Passage is, it's useful in any 2-color deck. It doesn't matter if you're aggressive or controlling or somewhere in between. You'll want to make room for Multiversal Passage in your deck, especially since these passages can be any basic you need to turn on your Verge lands. A Multiversal Passage in your hand is capable of producing whatever color you'd like when it enters play, but then you have to stick with that color. In a 2-color deck, this downside rarely comes up, but in a 3-color or, God forbid, 4 or 5-color deck, the need to pick a single color when it enters play can be a real drawback later in the game. Still, Multiversal Passage is a great card that will see tons of play in Standard. It just won't see play in any of those other formats I mentioned earlier, because those formats have access to, real mana bases. Another great card for Standard is Spider Sense, a 2-mana instant that counters an instant, sorcery, or triggered ability. Crucially, it can be cast for a single blue mana with its web-slinging cost. Self-bounce decks have been a staple of Standard for nearly a year now, ever since players discovered the synergy between Nurturing Pixie and literally any permanent that does anything good when it enters play. Right now, the predominant bounce deck is in Esper colors, and you know what colors included in Esper? What? No, not red. Red isn't it. What? All right, can we put Spider Sense back on the screen again? Blue! Blue! My God, you people. Try and follow me on this. In decks that would want Spider Sense, the self-bounce clause and the web-slinging cost is pure upside, not downside. It's actively great to put a Nurturing Pixie or a Sun Pearl Kieran back into your hand. The Kieran you can even recast on your opponent's turn after Spider Sensing one of their spells or abilities. The biggest drawback to Spider Sense is that the range of things the card can counter is rather narrow. Instants, sorceries, and triggered abilities. For Spider Sense to be a main deck card, there would have to be enough commonly played scary instants, sorceries, and triggers in the format for it to provide useful protection. There are also tons of triggers in the format, of course, but few of those triggers are quite worth the resources that casting a Spider Sense would cost you. No, I think while Spider Sense is an incredibly powerful card, it is most likely to see play as a sideboard card against something like Azorius Control. But in that matchup, Spider Sense will be really, really impressive. You can use Spider Sense to counter card draw spells like Stock Up, Winter Night Stories, and Consult the Star Charts. That's usually pretty good since those spells cost a lot of mana. You can use Spider Sense to counter spot removal, but one of the strengths of the bounce deck is that you rarely care that much about spot removal. Sweepers are a good thing to answer, and you can even use Spider Sense to counter the triggered ability on a permanent-based sweeper like Pinnacle Star Cage. The next Standard card I'm going to call attention to in this video is Scarlet Spider, Ben Riley. Really? Ben Riley? Really? Ben Riley is a 4/3 legendary spider human for 1 generic and 1 of each Gruul mana, though he also has a web-slinging cost of green and red. Ben Riley has Trample and enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on him, where X is the mana value of the creature you bounce with his web-slinging ability. Here is the simplest way to cast a big Ben Riley. Turn 1, play a Llanowar Elf off of a Stomping Ground. Turn 2, tap that elf for green mana, then sling the Scarlet Spider into play, bouncing your elf. You've now got a 5/4 Trampler that you spent 2 mana on, and you can even play out a second land and recast your elf if you feel so inclined. But there's another great kind of creature to bounce with Ben Riley. Warped creatures. If you have a way to tap your warp creature, you can then spend 2 mana to web sling a positively huge Ben Riley into play. With 5 mana, you can warp a Nova Hellkite into play, attack for 4, then web sling the dragon and put a 9/8 Trampler onto the field. Or if you lead on a turn 1 Gene Pollinator, then on turn 2 cast any one of the several 3 mana creatures that can warp for a single mana, you can tap that creature to the Gene Pollinator and cast Ben Riley as a 2 mana 7/6 Trampler again on turn 2. Really? Yes, really, it's Riley. Ben Riley. These examples I'm providing are merely the most busted scenarios I can imagine, but even putting him into play on a more modest timeline is worth doing. A 2 mana 7/6 is still a great play on turn 4. I have high hopes for Scarlet Spider Ben Riley in Standard. Of course, he'll probably have to wait until after VV gets banned to really shine, but is that not just the fate of every Standard legal card not in the VV deck these days? You gotta wait for the ban. And there you have it, our picks for the cards most likely to see play in pretty much every non-Commander format. Now I want to hear from you. Are there any cards we missed that you wished we'd talked about? Which formats and how do you think they'll be played? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, what do you say? Did you miss our newest episode of Shuffle Up and Play? Well, be sure to catch that episode where we are joined by none other than Bosco, Irene the Alien, and Joey for a game of Commander that you don't want to miss. Links to that video in the description or just, click the eye. Give it a watch if you haven't already. And remember, if you need a new mattress, you can get one delivered right to your door. No fuss, no muss, thanks to Helix Sleep, the best mattress around, and again, right to your door. And you can return it if you're not immediately satisfied in getting the best night's sleep of your life. Just visit helixsleep.com/Tellurian to take advantage of their extended Labor Day sale exclusive partner offer, which is 27% off site-wide. Thank you, Helix, for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
What's up? It's Shuffle Up and Play, and today we have balanced our decks against a medium deck.
Mid? Do they call it? I think the kids call it mid.
But okay, off.
Your deck was bonkers, crazy, powerful.
They replaced a couple cards.
And how many was that?
20? I have a really easy turn 1, a Gloom Lake Verge land. And then I'm gonna draw for turn.
This is what I assume your lives are usually like. As influencers.
You're an influencer.
You're an influencer.
I want to tell you this. That's what you do.
Death Cap Glade.
That a no cap? What's the? It's cap. Yeah, cap. Cap.
I want to attack, but I don't think anybody's naked. I got a 4/4 Froggy.
Can't be naked.
What? Is this a common vibe?
Sometimes I say things and I don't know why.